Prime Field.
21 minutes, 11 rebounds, and a UConn rotation that suddenly looks different. On February 7th against Butler, Jana Alfy did not merely get some run. She absorbed the kind of workload that only goes to players a staff trusts when the calendar turns dangerous. Because February is not just about winning. It is about preparing to survive March. So here's the central question this story answers. Did Jana Alfy just turn a one-game opportunity into a permanent place in UConn's postseason plan? The Butler game did not begin as a showcase for Jana Alfy. It began as a stress test. UConn arrived shorthanded. Sarah Strong was sidelined for rest. Ice Brady was unavailable due to knee inflammation. The result was a tight 9-player availability picture. And a rotation that could not hide anyone. Every available player was required to log at least 7 minutes, but the important detail is not the minimum. It is the ceiling. Only 5 UConn players crossed the 20-minute threshold. Jana Alfy was one of them. Her season rhythm before Butler lived around 10.8 minutes per game. Against Butler, it became 21. That is not a minor adjustment. It is a 94.4% increase over her standard 20-25-26 usage rate prior to the game. And it happened for a reason. Sarah Strong's absence was not just emotional, it was structural. Strong had started 64 consecutive games. She averaged more than 27 minutes per night, and she provided nearly 20 points and 8 rebounds as a baseline. Remove that from any system, and the system must compensate. Allie Ziebell stepped into the starting lineup to provide perimeter spacing, but the physical burden inside shifted. It fell to Sarah Williams, and it fell to Jana Alfy. This was not simply the staff making do. It was controlled experimentation. UConn entered the Butler series with a 9-0 all-time record against the Bulldogs. That matters. It created a low-risk environment to test Alfy's conditioning and her defensive rotations, and it created the perfect setting to answer one question. If the Huskies cannot rely on their primary statistical engine, can they still control the paint? The next chapter provides the answer. The most persuasive performances do not always come from scoring. Sometimes they come from endings. A defensive rebound is an ending. It ends the opponent's possession. And against Butler, Jana Alfy ended possessions at a relentless rate. In just 21 minutes, she secured a career-high 11 rebounds. Her season average entering the game was 3.4. Against Butler, she surpassed it by 223%. But the real story is the type of rebounds. 10 of her 11 boards were defensive rebounds. That is possession completion. That is control. And it is also speed. UConn scored 20 fast break points in the game. To run, a team first has to rebound. Alfy's rebounding did not just protect the rim. It ignited tempo. Her efficiency was staggering. She recorded 0.52 rebounds per minute, the highest rate on the team. She collected 28.9% of UConn's 38 total rebounds, while playing only 10.5% of the total available player minutes. That is the kind of production that changes the staff's internal math, because it suggests scalability. Throughout the season, Alfy averaged 12.5 rebounds per 40 minutes. Against Butler, her pace effectively jumped to 20 rebounds per 40 minutes. The implication is clear. Her impact does not dilute when her minutes rise. It scales. And this is precisely the kind of February proof that becomes a March roll. But there is more. Her presence did not just create rebounds. It removed hope. Butler shot just 36.5% from the floor. The Bulldogs were limited to 11 offensive rebounds. And the critical window was not the fourth quarter. It was the middle. In the second and third quarters, UConn outscored Butler 44-22. That is where games is on a tilt. That is where momentum either arrives or gets denied. Alfy's positioning in the paint forced Butler's primary rebounder, Senia Jackson, to work for every look. Jackson finished with 12 rebounds, but many came late, when the outcome was already decided. In the quarters that mattered most, Alfy's defensive rebounding was the primary deterrent, and as her rebounding became a standard, UConn's rotation started to reveal a new possibility, a possibility that shows up when the clock gets tight. UConn's late-game identity is often leaned towards smaller, faster, more versatile lineups, More ball handlers, more spacing, more switching. But the Butler game presented a situational pivot. Even with a large lead in the fourth quarter, Alfy remained central to the interior defense. At the 1-minute, 33-second mark, she secured a defensive rebound that prevented a late Butler run. It is a small detail, but in March, small details become the difference between playing again and going home. Sarah Williams provided elite rim protection against Butler, recording 3 blocks. Alfy offered something different: a wider catch radius for defensive boards, a frame designed for physical insurance. And with that, a new closing concept forms. The trade-off becomes clear: spacing versus stability. A 4-guard look can stretch a defense, but it can also invite punishment on the glass. The Butler game showed a willingness to sacrifice pure spacing, to gain screening and paint presence. That willingness matters, especially if foul trouble strikes, because the postseason is not a clean laboratory. It is chaos, it is whistles, it is fatigue, it is matchups. And UConn is already thinking in matchup terms. If the Huskies face a team with significant front court length in the tournament, a standard small closing lineup risks being bullied inside. The Butler game functioned as proof of concept for a jumbo closing unit, a lineup featuring Arnold, Fudd, Ziebell, or Shade, Williams, and Alfy. Perimeter speed, interior mass, and a situational closer who can be deployed based on the opponent. Not tradition. That is what problem solver means. Not a player who needs to be survived, a player who solves a specific problem. But how does a staff decide who earns those minutes? It happens through a February hierarchy, a trust index. In February, rotations tighten and roles become clearer. For UConn, the Butler game revealed an internal shift. Jana Alfy is trending up, after averaging 10.8 minutes through the first 24 games. She posted a 21-minute, 11-rebound outburst that will be difficult to ignore when the stakes rise. Allie Ziebell is also trending up. Her transition into the starting lineup against Butler was productive. 11 points, 4 steals. She matched KK Arnold for the team high in steals. And this came after her record-tying 10 three-pointer performance against Xavier in late January. Her profile expands. Not just a shooter, a two-way piece who can start or change a game off the bench. And then there's the downward trend. Ice Brady. Availability has become the issue. She had only 23 total minutes played across the entire 2025-26 season. Persistent knee inflammation kept her out against Butler. And February is unforgiving because UConn's rotation at full strength is essentially 9 deep. Any missed time becomes amplified. It becomes lost oxygen. Minutes do not sit unused. They get absorbed. And in this moment, Alfy has absorbed the big rotation oxygen that might have been shared. The coaching philosophy behind it is direct. Less is more. In his post-game remarks on February 7th, Geno emphasized that success for reserves comes from fundamentals, not force defense, rebounding, screening, defending. Alfy's response was the cleanest proof possible. She took only 4 shots, she scored 4 points, and she dominated the glass. That is role-defined basketball. That is March trust, and the benefits do not stop with one player. When the center position stabilizes, the rest of the roster breathes. Basketball is not a set of isolated stat lines. It is a chain reaction. Alfy's minutes increase created immediate positional optimization. Start with Sarah Williams. Williams is a Lisa Leslie Award candidate. She's averaged a career-high 58.1% from the field. But when forced to play as the lone big, the burden multiplies. More contact, more fatigue, more foul risk. Against Butler, Alfy absorbed physical pressure. Williams was free to play free. The result was precision. 11 points, 66.7% shooting, 3 blocks, and 4 assists, evidence of improved playmaking when she is not trapped in constant interior combat. Now look at the guards. UConn leads the nation with 24.7 assists per game. That requires structure. Seals, passing lanes, clean possessions. Alfy's defensive rebounds often led to immediate outlet passes. Those outlets fueled transition, 20 fast break points. And when tempo rises, UConn's bench guards can become more role-specific. Kaylee Heckel delivered 4 rebounds and 2 assists in 22 minutes. Kellis Fisher provided 6 points and 2 assists in 14. Their value increases when they can press and push instead of constantly crashing the glass to compensate. Even the broader health strategy shifts. The confidence in Alfy's production gives the staff the ability to continue managing Sarah Strong's muscle tightness without fearing a massive drop-off in interior physicality. That is the kind of flexibility a program needs when the calendar compresses. But the most revealing part of this story is what happens if that flexibility does not exist. That is the counterfactual, the nightmare scenario. To understand why Alfy's emergence is non-negotiable, consider the alternative. What if the staff had kept her around 10 minutes like earlier in the season? The first consequence is foul risk. Sarah Williams likely would have been pushed toward 30-plus minutes. More minutes for a lone anchor increases exposure to foul trouble and late-game fatigue. The second consequence is energy depletion. Without Alfy's 11 rebounds, UConn's guards would have been forced to crash harder. That siphons energy away from what fuels the Huskies' identity, full-court defensive pressure. The third consequence is matchup vulnerability. Butler grabbed 11 offensive rebounds. In a small lineup, those extra possessions can keep an underdog alive, and the Butler game offered a glimpse. In the first quarter, Butler was down only 5 points at the 4-minute, 48-second mark. Early gaps in the paint, early opportunities, early belief. It was only after Alfy established her presence on the boards that UConn created separation. A 12-0 run to close the half, and with it, the Bulldogs had resolve. In March, shooting percentages dip. Games become defensive slugfests. And the team that controls the glass often controls the outcome. Committing to Alfy as a 20-minute player is not just a reward. It is an insurance policy. Physical insurance. Insurance that protects UConn's identity even if Sarah Strong is rested or Williams is in foul trouble. And when a team can protect its identity under stress, it becomes harder to break. Which brings the story to its final meaning. The final score against Butler reads like routine dominance, an 80-48 rout, a 25th consecutive win. But inside the win, UConn gained something more valuable than margin. It gained clarity. Jana Alfy did not just fill minutes, she defined them. By dominating the defensive glass, she provided possession control. By scaling her productivity with increased workload, she provided reliability. And by fitting within the less is more philosophy, she provided the kind of role discipline that earns the highest currency in college basketball. Trust. The Butler game marked a definitive shift in UConn's tactical hierarchy. Alfy moved from developmental reserve to essential problem solver, and for a team preparing for tournament pressure, that shift matters. Because March does not reward potential. March rewards answers. And on February 7th, Jana Alfy provided one. So the question now is not whether she can rebound. The numbers already say that. The question is what UConn will do with this new weapon when the matchups get longer, the whistles get tighter, and the margin for error disappears. It leaves us asking, when March arrives, does Jana Alfy stay a situational option, or has she already become a non-negotiable part of UConn's closing plan?
Prime Field